It was the kind of question that wasn't really a question at all. It was a challenger line drawn in the grease-stained concrete floor of Grant & Sons Auto Performance. It's one of the busiest custom garages in Atlanta, and right in the middle of that challenge stood Tasha Brown, 27 years old, 5'6", and covered in oil from head to toe. Her black coveralls were rolled up to the elbows, her hair tied back in a scarf, and a wrench balanced in her hand like it was an extension of her. The arm around her, the workshop buzzed with energy. Sparks flew from a welding bay in the corner. A deep bass beat thumped from a Bluetooth speaker propped on an old toolbox. Engines rumbled like sleeping giants waiting to be awakened. But all that background noise faded when Daniel Grant entered. The shop. Daniel was no regular visitor. He was a senior mechanical engineer from a high-end automotive firm. It was a big deal. The guy who designed engines that powered race cars, luxury SUVs, and military-grade trucks. The kind of man who walked into a room like he owned it. He was at the shop for a partnership deal, something about advanced tuning systems. But from the moment he stepped in, it was clear he had an attitude. His eyes scanned the garage, stopping on Tasha with a look that said, "What's she doing here?" Tasha noticed. She'd seen that look too many times before. Absolutely. Here's an expanded section 2, The Woman Behind the Wrench. Developed into approximately 800 engaging YouTube-friendly words, continuing the story of Tasha Brown. With clarity and emotional depth, ideal for narration. Before we dive deeper into the engine, the roar and the stunned silence that followed, let's rewind a bit, because to truly understand this story, you need to know who Tasha Brown really is. Born in the heart of Detroit, Michigan City, known to the world as the Motor City Tasha, was practically raised with a socket wrench in one hand and an oil rag in the other. Her father, Henry Brown, was a retired Army vet turned full-time mechanic. He didn't just fix cars, he taught people to respect them. In their garage, engines weren't machines. They were puzzles, stories, art, while other kids were learning how to ride bikes. Tasha was learning how to bleed brake lines by the age of 10. She could tell you the difference between a small block and big block V8 just by listening to the idle. By 13, she had disassembled and rebuilt her dad's old Chevy Impala twice. It wasn't just a hobby, it was love. But the world outside their garage, that was a different story. When Tasha told her middle school counselor she wanted to be a mechanic, the woman raised an eyebrow and said, "That's not very ladylike, sweetie. How about nursing?" When she enrolled in an all-boys technical training course in high school, some of the guys refused to partner with her. Others made comments under their breath, "You sure you're in the right class?" Or "This isn't cosmetology." Even teachers underestimated her. One instructor docked her points on a project presentation because he didn't believe she had actually rebuilt the carburetor herself. And when she finally got her first job, at a small garage in Detroit, customers routinely walked past her to talk to one of the guys. Some even handed her their car keys and said, "Can you give this to the mechanic?" But every comment, every doubting glance, every condescending chuckle, it only fueled her fire. Tasha didn't just want to prove them wrong, she wanted to master her craft so thoroughly that no one could question her again. And that's exactly what she did. While her peers were partying or watching sports, Tasha was studying torque specs, engine diagnostics, and fuel injection systems. She worked late, took extra shifts, and saved up every penny to earn not one, not two, but 7 national certifications covering everything from drivetrain repair to advanced electronic systems. She became known for her calm under pressure and her almost instinctive understanding of engines. It was like she could hear what was wrong before plugging in a scanner. That's when the nickname started to spread online, the Engine Whisperer. She launched a YouTube channel to share repair tutorials, tips for women in automotive tech, and behind-the-scenes footage of engine builds. Slowly but surely, her audience grew. By 25, she had tens of thousands of subscribers, multiple sponsorships, and had even been featured in a digital magazine about women in STEM. But none of that came easy. Behind every achievement was a battle against racism, sexism, and the constant pressure of being the only one in the room, being a black woman in the automotive industry wasn't just rare, it was lonely. She remembered a time, when she walked into a national trade show and was mistaken for a cleaning staff member. Another time, a fellow mechanic told her straight to her face, "You only get attention because you're pretty, not because you're good." Tasha didn't argue. She didn't fight back with words. She fought back with results. That's what brought her to Atlanta, chasing a better opportunity. A more inclusive work environment, and the chance to prove herself in a city known for hustle and heart. When she joined the team at Grant & Sons Auto Performance, it was one of the most respected garages in the region. She didn't come in asking for special treatment. She came in asking for a lift, a workbench, and a chance to show what she could do. And she did. Within weeks, she was solving problems. Others couldn't. Customers started asking for her by name. Her colleagues, skeptical at first, became fans. Even old-school Mr. Ratha, grizzled shop owner, once said, "She's got magic in her fingers. I swear." So when Daniel Grant, the hotshot mechanical engineer, walked in with his fancy watch and Ivy League degree and smirked at the sight of her, he had no idea what storm he was stepping into. To him, it was just a joke, cocky bet, meant to draw laughs from the crew. "If you fix that engine, I'll marry you." But to Tasha, it was just another she didn't say anything. Just tightened the bolt on the brake caliper she'd been working on and kept going. She didn't need to explain herself. Her skills spoke louder than any resume. But Daniel, he wasn't done yet. He walked over to a rusted-out V8 diesel engine, the kind of block that looked like it had seen war. It was massive cast iron, old school land. Had already been labeled a dead job by 3 other mechanics. No spark, no compression, no life. Most said it was beyond repair. Daniel tapped the side of the engine, turned to the others, and declared, "This one's toast. You'd have better luck rebuilding a toaster." The guys laughed, nodding in agreement. A beast. Then came Tasha. She stepped forward, curiosity in her eyes. "Mind if I take a look?" she asked, wiping her hands on a rag tucked into her belt. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "You." She nodded. There was a pause, a beat of silence that felt like a full minute. Then, the chuckle that bordered on disbelief, Daniel said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Tell you what, if you fix that engine, I'll marry you." Duh. Entire garage burst into laughter. Tools dropped, heads turned, and someone even whistled. "Yo, he really said that." "No way." "Put a ring on it, D." But through it all, Tasha didn't flinch. No raised voice, no wide-eyed shock. Ish. Just looked Daniel in the eyes, calm and steady, and said, "Deal." No. You could hear a wrench drop. Daniel laughed, caught off guard by her confidence. "You're serious?" Tasha smirked. "Dead serious." "And more?" Laughter filled the room, but this time it wasn't just amusement. There was something else. Respect, curiosity, suspense, like the opening act of a show nobody expected to be good, but might just blow the roof off. The shop owner, Mr. Ray, an old-school mechanic with white sideburns and a beer belly, stepped in. "Well, hell," he said, wiping his glasses. "Looks like we've got ourselves a challenge." He clapped his hands once. "Gentlemen and lady, clear the floor. Let's see what Miss Brown can do." Tasha didn't waste time. She grabbed her diagnostic kit, slid her toolbox over, and tied her bandana tighter. The engine was old, but she liked old. Old meant stories. Old meant mistakes made and lessons buried deep inside. As she worked, the others watched. Some leaned against tool carts, others hovered with coffee cups. Even Daniel, now less smug and more intrigued, stayed nearby, occasionally peeking over her shoulder. The bet may have started as a joke, but now everyone wanted to see if she could actually pull it off. Minutes turned into an hour. Tasha didn't rush. She worked with precision checking, fluid levels, testing circuits, removing and reattaching spark plugs, inspecting the fuel injectors. Her hands moved like they'd done this 1,000 times, and they had, because what Daniel didn't know, what the others were beginning to realize, was that Tasha Brown wasn't just some hobbyist who liked cars. She was certified and advanced. Diagnostics, engine repair, electronic systems, and emissions. She had worked on everything from classic muscle cars to hybrid engines. This wasn't just a job. It was her passion, her purpose. And as the sun dipped lower, and the garage filled with golden evening light, something incredible began to happen. The engine, once silent, stubborn, and stone-cold, dead, began to respond. Tasha looked up, wiped her hands again, and called out, "All right, let's fire her up." Daniel blinked. "All ready?" She nodded. "Let's see if this toast can still rumble." Mr. Ray stepped forward, turned the ignition, and the sound that followed made jaws drop. VROOOOOO. The engine roared to life. Not sputtering, not coughing, roaring, steady, powerful, alive. The garage exploded in cheers. Mechanics were high-fiving. Mr. Ray just stared, mouth open, and Daniel. He was speechless. Tasha smiled, not cocky but proud. She turned to Daniel and said, "So, where's my ring?" The mood inside Grant and Son's auto performance had shifted from laughter to curiosity. As Tasha Brown rolled up her sleeves and approached the rusted-out V8 diesel engine like a surgeon preparing for a high-risk operation, the room gradually went quiet. Mechanics who'd once chuckled at the engineer's ridiculous marriage bet now watched in silence. Some leaned against tool chests. Others hovered nearby with crossed arms and raised brows. Even the music had been turned off, replaced by the symphony of sockets clicking and metal tapping. Daniel Grant, still smiling smugly, leaned against the wall and whispered to a fellow tech, "She'll give up in 10 minutes. But 10 minutes passed, and she was still going. Then 30, then an hour, then 2. Still no sign of quitting. Tasha wasn't working frantically. She wasn't guessing or throwing parts around hoping to get lucky. She was methodical, calm, and precise, like someone who knew every inch of the machine's anatomy. She started with a visual inspection, as the engine had already been partially disassembled by others. But Tasha saw things they had missed, tiny details that told a story. A scratch on a cam lobe, signs of old corrosion. A bent hose clamp that had likely caused a drop in oil pressure. Her fingers traced the block like they were reading Braille. She pulled out a flashlight, checked the fuel lines, felt around the mounts, examined the gasket seals. She sniffed the oil and coolant for signs of contamination. Nothing rushed, nothing panicked, and all the while the clock ticked. Some of the other techs began to realize what was happening. They leaned in, whispering quietly, "She's doing a full diagnostic. Look how steady her hands are." She caught the fuel issue. "I missed that." Tasha kept moving. The air in the shop got hotter, thicker. Sweat dripped from her brow, but she didn't pause. Her coveralls were streaked with grease now, her knuckles black from grime, but her focus never wavered. She found a clogged fuel line partially blocked by sediment that had built up over time. That alone could have prevented proper ignition. Next, she discovered a misaligned camshaft gear, likely causing timing issues. Then a faulty crankshaft position sensor. It's a kind of small failure that can stall an entire rebuild if missed. Each problem she uncovered added up to the mystery of why the engine wouldn't start. To the untrained eye, it had seemed hopeless. To Tasha, it was a puzzle, and she loved puzzles. Meanwhile, Daniel's expression started to shift. The cocky grin faded as he watched her. Isolate problems with the kind of intuition you can't learn from textbooks. This wasn't luck. This was skill. Eventually, even he had to admit, she knew what she was doing. Hours passed. Light from the setting sun poured through the garage windows, casting golden beams across the workbench. The scent of sweat, hot metal, and diesel hung heavy in the air. And then just after Tasha reinstalled the cleaned fuel injector and replaced the sensor, she stood up straight, stretched her back, and slowly wiped her hands with the same rag she'd been using all day. She turned to Mr. Ray, the owner of the shop, and said calmly, "She's ready." The garage tinned. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Ready for what?" Tasha smiled. "Let's fire her up." Mr. Ray stepped forward, eyes wide with cautious hope. He turned the ignition switch. For a half second, nothing, then. VROOOOOM. The entire engine roared to life, loud and full of power, like a lion waking from a deep slumber. The deep rumble filled the room, vibrating the floor under their boots. The rhythm was smooth. The tone was perfect. No knocking, no sputtering, just raw, steady power. For a moment, no one moved. Then, the garage erupted. Cheers exploded. One tech dropped his coffee and clapped his hands together. Another took out his phone, yelling, "Yo, this is going online right now." Someone started filming. Someone else screamed. She brought it back. Mechanics rushed forward, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others clapping Tasha on the back. Even Mr. Ray, who'd seen just about everything in his 40 years running the shop, like he'd just witnessed a miracle. Daniel, however, just stood there, frozen. His mouth opened slightly, as if trying to form a word. But nothing came out. He wasn't just surprised. He was shocked. Because everything about that moment challenged everything he thought he knew. The girl he had was underestimated. The machine he thought was dead. The bet he made without thinking twice. Tasha looked at him calm and steady and said with a small smirk, "Still think I'm just the receptionist?" Laughter exploded again. Even Daniel had to smile. Though it was the kind of smile that comes when your pride takes a hit and you know you deserved it, he walked forward, offering a hand. "Okay, I'm officially impressed." Tasha shook it. "Told you I knew what I was doing." He nodded. "You didn't just fix that engine. You made me eat my words." Someone from the back shouted, "So, Daniel, when's the wedding?" The room cracked up. Daniel grinned, raising his hands. "A bet's a bet. I guess I should at least take her to dinner first." Tasha laughed, finally relaxing a little after the long hours of work. She reached into her toolbox, pulled out the original broken sensor, handed it to him like a trophy. "Souvenir," she said. The video of the moment Tasha standing beside the roaring engine, surrounded by cheering mechanics and a stunned engineer, was uploaded that same night. By morning, it had over 2 million views. The world was watching. But for Tasha, it wasn't about fame. It wasn't even about the bet. It was about respect. And in that moment, in that garage full of doubters, turned believers, she had earned every ounce of it. The roar of the engine still echoed in the air when someone from the back of the garage, voice filled with mischief, filled out, "So, Daniel, you said you'd marry her." The garage burst into laughter. Everyone remembered it. The bet, the smirk, the challenge. Daniel, still half stunned from what he'd just witnessed, raised his hands like a man caught red-handed. "Hey," he said with a sheepish grin, "a bet's a bet." Tasha, standing proudly by the now purring engine, raised an eyebrow and looked straight at him. Her expression was part teasing, part triumphant. "You sure you're ready to be husband to a woman who can outfix you?" The laughter grew louder. Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it. For once, the usually sharp-tongued engineer was speechless. In that moment right there was gold. Unbeknownst to them, one of the garage workers, Luis, had been filming the entire thing from the first chuckle to the final clapback. By the time Tasha tossed Daniel the faulty sensor as a souvenir, Luis had already uploaded the clip with the caption, "She fixed the unfixable engine." Now he owes her a ring hashtag Tasha Brown hashtag engine whisperer, and just like that, the internet caught fire. The next morning, the video had hit 2 million views. By lunch, it was trending on automotive forums. Reddit, Instagram, and TikTok comments poured in. "This woman is a legend. Marry her, brochet. Just revived a diesel beast.
Oh.
The queen of torque representation and revving. Y'all better respect her." By the end of the week, Tasha had interview requests from local news, car magazines, podcasts, and even a major morning talk show. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Her YouTube subscriber count skyrocketed. Sponsors reached out to feature her in Women in Tech campaigns, but the recognition wasn't just about the engine. It was about what she represented, a black female mechanic in a male-dominated industry, silencing a room full of doubters, not with attitude but with skill, patience, and raw expertise. For many, especially young girls of color, Tasha was proof. That talent knows no gender and power comes from knowing your worth. And then there was Daniel at first. Most people thought he'd disappear embarrassed by being publicly outperformed. But that's not what happened. He showed up the next day with 2 coffees and no ego. "Look," he said to Tasha, holding out the cup. "You earned this, and maybe a dinner. No pressure." Tasha raised an eyebrow. "No pressure, huh?" He smiled. "Only thing I'm pressuring is this espresso shot. But yeah, I'd like to take you out properly." She considered it. He wasn't mocking her anymore. His voice had softened, his tone sincere. Besides, she thought, a man brave enough to admit he got humbled on camera might just be worth a meal. So she said yes. Their first date wasn't flashy. They grabbed barbecue from a food truck and sat on the tailgate of Daniel's pickup under the stars. They talked about engines, childhood, the pressure of being exceptional, and what it meant to constantly prove yourself. Daniel admitted something that surprised her. "I didn't laugh at you because I thought you were bad," he said quietly. "I laughed because I didn't think you'd take the challenge seriously. I've never met someone who just got it like you do. Not like that." Tasha nodded slowly. "Well, next time, maybe don't start with a marriage proposal." They both laughed as their relationship quietly grew. Tasha's professional life exploded. She started getting offers from major repair chains, engineering firms, and even car manufacturers asking her to consult on diagnostics and design. But one offer stood out: a sponsorship to open her own auto shop funded by a Women in STEM foundation and backed by a national parts supplier. It was everything she'd dreamed of, and she knew what to name it. Brown Torque Garage, powered by women, open too. All within 6 months, she had hired 4 other women mechanics, 2 interns from trade schools, and even hosted weekend workshops for girls interested in automotive careers. Daniel, he helped where he could: wiring, system design, business planning. But he never tried to take credit. He stayed in the background, always cheering her on. Months later, during an interview at her new shop, a journalist asked, "So, the world wants to know, when's the wedding?" Tasha laughed, still thinking about it. But when she glanced at Daniel, who was leaning against the doorway with a smirk and 2 coffees in hand, she added, "Let's just say he's growing on me." The internet cheered again. Their story wasn't just about fixing an Engineer. About romance sparked by a bet, it became something bigger. It was about confidence under pressure. Standing tall in the face of doubt and turning every "you can't" into a "watch me." And Daniel, he learned that real strength sometimes comes with a wrench, a quiet voice, and the ability to bring the dead back to life, be it engines or old ways of thinking. Let me know if you'd like to move forward with Section 5, more than just a bet. Or if you need help with YouTube visuals, pacing guides, or narration voice tones. This story isn't just about a bet. It's not just about love either. It's about breaking boundaries, challenging expectations, and rewriting a narrative that has excluded too many women, especially women of color, for too long. Tasha Brown didn't just fix an engine. She rewired the entire way people in that garage thought about who belongs under the hood of a car. Let's take a deeper journey into what happened after the bet, the engine, and the viral video. Because for Tasha, that moment was a spark, but the real work was only just beginning. When Tasha opened her shop, Brown Torque Garage, it wasn't flashy. It didn't need to be. With just a few lifts, a couple of tool stations, and a lot of heart, she built a business from the ground up. Her first hires were women not because she was trying to make a statement, but because she had received hundreds of messages from women across the country saying, "I wish I had someone like you when I was younger." Tasha wanted to be that person. She took her viral fame and channeled it into something real: opportunity, representation, and education. She began hosting monthly workshops for girls aged 12 to 18, showing them how to change oil, understand basic engine components, and even tear down a carburetor. And the girls came. They showed up with wide eyes, curious minds, and notebooks full of questions. They came from different backgrounds: rural, wealthy, working class, but they all came with one thing in common. They had never seen someone who looked like them doing what Tasha did. Tasha became more than a mechanic. She became a symbol of what's possible. Magazine covers followed. TED invitations rolled in. She did interviews with national publications and podcasts. She wasn't seeking fame. but she understood the power of visibility. For too long, the image of a mechanic had been dominated by the same story: male, white, rugged, and gruff. Tasha brought a new image to that world. It's one of grace, confidence, and technical mastery. At one point, Popular magazine referred to her as Detroit's daughter. It's not just because of her roots, but because of what she stood for: resilience, reinvention, and horsepower. The truth about the betas for the infamous bet? Tasha laughs about it now. It was never about the marriage, she says in one interview. It was about proving that I belonged, that I could do what they said I couldn't. But the truth is, that bet did more than test her skills. It cracked open a door for conversations in garages and classrooms across the country. Teachers began showing the viral video in trade schools. Discussions were sparked about women in skilled trades. Organizations invited her to speak on panels about gender and race in STEM. And yes, Daniel kept showing up. At first, it was just lunch. Then it was late-night calls about business models. Eventually, it became something deeper. Mutual respect turned into affection. Affection into love. They didn't rush it. But when Daniel finally proposed, he didn't do it with a ring at a dinner table. He did it with a custom-machined piston engraved with the words, "To the woman who rebuilt everything." Today, Brown Torque Garage has expanded into a training academy. Dozens of women have come through its doors, not just to fix cars, but to reclaim confidence, skill, and voice. Some have opened their own shops. Others have gone into engineering, and even landed a scholarship to MIT after citing Tasha as her inspiration. What Tasha built is more than a business. It's a movement. Her walls are covered with pictures of girls who came through her shop, quotes from women in STEM, and a sign that reads, "Don't just fix what's broken, rebuild it better." And if you ask her what she's most proud of, don't say it was the engine, or the awards, or the fame. She'll point to a girl with grease on her face and a wrench in her hand and say, that's the future. This story was never just about a bet. It was about rewriting the rules. Tasha Brown proved that brilliance comes in all colors, all genders, all backgrounds. She showed us that confidence isn't arrogance, it's truth. That when the world says, "You can't," the only response is to smile, roll up your sleeves, and say, "Watch me." Her story reminds us all, never let someone else define your limits. Respect is earned, but sometimes you've got to demand it. And sometimes, just sometimes, you fix an engine, ... and end up fixing a man's broken perspective, Tasha. Brown didn't just win a bet. She won a future where girls can dream in horsepower and high torque. And yes, Daniel's still around. Less smug, more supportive, and always bragging that his fiancée can rebuild a carburetor faster than anyone. He knows, if someone laughs at your potential, don't argue. Just show them what you can do.